Good day, folks. Welcome to another computer build. This time, our focus is going to be on replacing my wireless bridge PC with something that is a little bit more efficient, because that right now is really just kind of a temporary box. It's a Core i5-10600K, which is a 125 watt TDP behemoth. It's got 802.11ax capabilities. I don't really need 802.11ax capabilities because I'm not going to really be using them for anything. Ultimately, for anything that's going to do anyway. Even though it is nice to have, because I think that it is a little bit more reliable. I think it's something that I can do without. We can go back to 802.11ac. It's just fun. So, let's take a look at the pieces. Here are the parts that we're going to be using. Well, almost. This RAM is actually for a different project. We're going to actually be using this RAM. Just some Team T4 stuff. 16 gigs, DDR4, 3600. Nothing particularly special. Here's the CPU that we're going to use. Let's see if we can actually get some focus on this. Well, kind of hard to see, really. It's one of these R5 5500 CPUs. Discrete graphics card required, which we'll look at here in a second. Seemed to me like it was a decent balance between performance and cost for something like this, which really, honestly, is just going to sit around and do basically absolutely nothing. Here's the board. We're going with another MSI board. Pro B550M-VC Wi-Fi. Again, it's a pretty inexpensive board, and I think I even got it on sale. So, nothing particularly special. It's got onboard wireless, so I don't have to use the expansion card. Probably could have driven the cost a little bit further down if I got one without the Wi-Fi, but it seems to be pretty hard to find motherboards these days with the newer chipsets that don't have Wi-Fi on board. So I figure, you know what, it's got Wi-Fi, I might as well use it. And again, most of the boards that didn't have Wi-Fi were also more expensive. So, nothing particularly special. Claims to be Crossfire technology ready, which is interesting. I don't know if it really is or not. Take a look at the bottom here. Assuming you can read it, you can go ahead and pause the video to read all this stuff. You know, I don't know if MSI actually manufactures cases. I can't say I've ever seen an MSI case. Kind of a stupid name if you ask me, but whatever. They didn't ask me when they were making it. I could have gone for a 5600G, but that would have doubled the cost of the CPU. Really, honestly, for basically no reason. At least as far as I could see. Here's a look at the I/O. Another reason for my choosing this board is it has a flash BIOS feature. And if I understand how that works, it's similar to the way that the Gigabyte ones work, is that you can put a USB stick into one of these USB ports. I don't know which one, usually it's labeled. But you can put a USB stick with a BIOS file on that, push this button, and it will automatically update the BIOS, which is pretty nice. Very handy for when you buy a CPU and the motherboard does not come out of the box with the requisite BIOS version to actually support that CPU, which I've run into a couple of times. On the Gigabyte board, which I actually put in my main rig, it was easy enough to fix. On the Asus board, I had to buy a whole new CPU, which was a pain in the butt. But maybe it worked out in the end, because it allowed me to make 2 computer builds out of 1. Of course, I got other hardware. It requires a video card, so here it is. Nothing fancy. Let's see here. Can you even read that? This is a Pegatron branded Radeon HD 6450. It does have one of these dumb fans, which I really don't like to use in a server, but I'd rather use this card over one of the NVIDIA ones, because I've had a lot of problems with NVIDIA cards in AMD systems. They've never really managed to figure that out. And then for the storage, I've got this platform here, which I'm going to take this NVMe SSD off of. It's nothing particularly fancy. 250 gig Western Digital Black. This is actually one of the PCI Express 4.0 ones. So it'll be nice to be able to take advantage of that. Okay, let's open it up to reveal the magic within. Here's your motherboard. I didn't show the case. I actually just realized that the case is still outside because I need to clean it. So we'll pull that out. That's recyclable. We get what looks like 2 serial ATA cables. Might be useful for some project or another. There's our I/O plate. Pretty standard I/O plate. Motherboard driver CD, which I'm quite surprised they still give you. Quick installation guide. Probably includes instructions on how to flash the BIOS with the button if you need to use it. Wi-Fi antennas. And these, I believe, are the screws for the NVMe. Alright, here is the board in all of its glory. DDR4 boost. There's where the NVMe goes, underneath that thing. I'm kind of surprised they give you 4 screws, because it looks like you wouldn't need to use 4 screws. Not 4 screws. Do they actually give you 4 screws? I think it's 3 screws. Yeah, they give you 3 screws in this. But I'm still not really sure why, because this has got its own screws, and then this only needs 1. Kind of interesting. So I'm just kind of making sure here that I don't need to install my own Wi-Fi card on this. There's a TPM jumper there, but you're not really going to need that on a system like this. It's got its own built-in. Not really sure what that is right there in between the slots. JSMB1 and JDP1. Kind of interesting. JT1? I don't know. That actually is your connection for front panel speaker. And then, where's the front panel header? Oh, it's right there. JFP1. Unfortunately, it's not labeled. So, we'll have to figure that out. Usually these are pretty standardized, though, so it's not hard to figure out. You can just, you know, because the key pin up there, and then underneath that, on the right side, you've got the reset switch and the hard drive LED. Then above that, starting from the top, you've got the power switch and the power LED. That's usually how it works. At least that's how I find that it usually works. So, anyway. Well, there's all kinds of features on this board I'm not going to be using, including the 8 serial ATA ports, which I didn't even know this board had. I'm used to most of these boards only having 4 of them. So I don't think I've ever actually seen, or certainly not recently, I have not seen a micro ATX motherboard with 8 SATA ports. It's kind of a weird thing. In fact, I think the last board I saw with 8 SATA ports was one of those old A8N boards that had the 4 serial ATA on board and then had 4 on an outboard controller. But anyway, it's a USB built right into the motherboard, which is pretty neat. Probably use that for flashing. At least I think that's a USB port. It might not be. It might actually be for something else. Other than that, pretty standard stuff. Lots of fan headers. Not going to be taking advantage of that either. This is really only a temporary setup, because eventually I won't need this anymore. And then at that point, this will probably end up being a VM host or something, because it's got all those SATA ports. So, but for the time being, let's go ahead and set this up. Also realized I forgot to talk about the power supply, so we'll get into that as well. Okay, I've gone ahead and installed the NVMe. You can see there's actually a standoff underneath that, which I think I might pull out of there, because I'm wondering if that's going to be a danger to this. I think I will actually pull that out. So, And of course you've got this, which has its own little heatsink pad on it. I don't think it's required for this particular SSD, but I'll go ahead and I'll use it anyway. So, alright, got the RAM installed now too, in addition to the SSD. It's nothing quite like the satisfying click that a brand new motherboard gives you on its RAM slots. I hope those are the right ones. I know that some of these boards, yeah, it looks like I put them in the wrong slots. I did it the Intel way, not the AMD way, so I'm going to have to do that again. Oh, what a pain in the butt. Then we'll unbox the CPU, get that installed. Okay, I've broken the seal. So now we will get a chance to look at the magic within. There's your CPU with your sticker. Certificate of authenticity. Hopefully I won't have to do that with this board. It did say that it supported it, and then here is the cooler, which yes, even though it's maybe not the most high performance cooler in the world, I will be using. There it is, in its nice shiny home. All those fragile pins. It's always nerve-wracking when you do this on these newer CPUs because those pins are so tiny. Very easy to break. Here's the cooler with its included thermal paste, which I'm going to commit a sin. I'm going to actually use that included thermal paste. Some people say you're not supposed to, but I really don't see much of a problem with it. It's included for a reason. But this is one of those coolers. I believe they call this the Wraith Stealth now. They used to call it the Wraith Spire. But you gotta remove the onboard cradle on this board. So I gotta get out a screwdriver and get this out of here. And then we can install this. I think this actually even includes thumb screws on it too. Not that you can really see them. Okay, I got it mounted. I'm not really necessarily sold on this mounting arrangement, because wire just kind of dangling like that, but it is plugged into CPU fan 1, which is where it's supposed to go. Couple of pieces of advice when mounting a cooler like this. It's got spring-loaded screws. When you're tightening these screws down, only go until they stop. Don't tighten them any further, because otherwise it will make it a real pain when you want to take that back off again. Second piece of advice, alternate corners. So let's say you start right here, you start there, and then you go sort of in an X pattern, tightening it down a little bit either way. If you tighten it down all the way on one side, you can really warp your motherboard. Again, been there, done that. Lastly, when you're mounting a cooler like this, don't use a worn-out Phillips screwdriver. Use something that is going to fit that screw head snugly. I know they look like thumb screws. It's very difficult to use them as thumb screws. And if you use a worn-out screwdriver, what will happen is when you're pressing down with all that force on this to get it to go into the hole, you'll slip off the screwdriver and stab right through your motherboard. Again, don't ask me how I know all about that. So, with this mounted now, I think the base hardware is pretty much good to go. I do have to mount the antennas, which I will do once I've got all this cleaned up. And I'll have to get out a power supply in order to test this. It won't be the power supply that I'm going to use in the system itself, but I am going to use one just basically for testing here tonight, because I don't know if I'm going to get to putting this all the way together, because it's already 6:30 and I've got other stuff I need to work on. Alright, here we are with our temporary setup. Kick that on. Didn't see any reaction out of the computer, not yet anyway. I have managed to lose my screwdriver, which is great. It was here, I don't know why it's not still there. So again, I'm going to make the assumption I know where the power switch is. So far it hasn't done anything. So first step, I guess, is to make sure that it's actually plugged in, which it is. So I don't know why it's not doing anything. That's very interesting. Why is it not working? Come on. Oh, that's why. That's the USB. Yeah, that's better. Okay, let's see what it does. I get video output from it. I just saw a little flash. Not very promising so far. Does not like this video card. Oh, there it goes. Now we're getting somewhere. Sort of. Almost. Come on, computer, let's go. There we go. Well, we're almost getting somewhere. It doesn't like this video card, it looks like. It's really annoying. Okay, wow. Once again, work on a computer, and we have problem after problem after problem. Okay, well, it was one problem that manifested itself in 3 ways. So, I guess we're stuck with this giant video card in here, because this is the only one that I can find that actually will work. Not because there's anything wrong with the other video cards, but because things just want to be stupid for absolutely no reason whatsoever. As per the usual. Whatever. This is what we've got going on now. Everything looks okay to me. Everything's detected. I'm going to set this BIOS up the way that I would like to have it set. In theory, it should turn off. Well, there might not be anything of any value on that SSD. Kind of interesting that there wouldn't be. I'm trying to think about which key is the one that will actually get me into the boot menu. Okay, so as it turns out, that SSD was blank. I didn't realize it was blank. I thought it had Windows 10 still on it from the last purpose this computer had, but I guess it didn't. So I've installed Windows 10, I've activated it. I haven't totally configured it. You can see it's still in the Pacific time zone. But I'm going to take all of this, and I'm actually going to shut this down. And I'm going to take all of this, and I'm going to put it in that case with that power supply. Okay, here it is installed in the case now. Everything in place. All the connections made that need to be made except for the ones for the power supply. I'm hoping that this power supply is going to work, because this is actually pretty nice if you ignore the fact that it's just a cheap Coolmax power supply. Rated for what, 600 watts? Yeah, you're not going to get 600 watts out of this. Well, maybe a little bit more. I don't know what the actual rating of it is, but it is 80 plus gold certified. So that's pretty neat. First 80 plus gold power supply I've ever had, and that should improve on some efficiency here. Maybe not by much, but you know, every little bit helps. Somebody's going to probably point out that this fan is backwards. Actually, no, it's not. I thought it was, but I think it's okay. No, it is backwards. I'm going to correct myself, because yeah, the grill should be on the other side of the fan, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to leave it alone. I got to plug in the power supply now. Okay. Ready for this to explode. Well, I hope it doesn't do that, but you never know sometimes. Should come on. There it goes. Oh, that's neat. The fan doesn't work. Seriously? Okay, I figured it out. It was actually pretty easy. It was a wire stuck. For the CPU fan, actually, was stuck in the side. I'm trying to figure out where that squealing is coming from. If it's coming from the power supply or if it's coming from the motherboard. Very interesting. But this should be fairly lightly loaded, so it shouldn't be too bad. The only thing that's really probably going to put a significant load on it is this video card. So I'm going to put the cover on it. We'll get signed in here. We'll get this connected to the wireless and get this figured out. One thing that I learned about this, in fact, is that apparently this actually has Wi-Fi 6 on it. I think that is 802.11ax. I was under the impression it was only 802.11ac, but I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what Wi-Fi 6 actually stands for. Okay, so Houston, we have a problem with this. And of course I put the cover on. Probably have a listen to that. You can hear that it's zizzing like crazy in there. Which on its own wouldn't be too interesting. I'm going to go ahead and log in here. Just bring it up. Everything looks like it's fine. Apparently I didn't remember my Wi-Fi network. Wi-Fi 6. But I've noticed a problem with this machine, and I'm not sure if it's going to actually do it right now while it's running and doing whatever. It's happened a couple of times now where the system has just spontaneously restarted for seemingly no reason whatsoever. If I go into the event viewer, you'll probably see it. I don't know if it's heat related or anything like that. I kind of doubt it. As you can see, there's one. System has not rebooted cleanly. Previous system shutdown was unexpected. There's another one right there. And I think there was a third one. Yeah, there's a third one right there. And there comes another one. It actually did it on video. That's amazing. Usually that kind of stuff does not happen. But, yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. That's really weird. So I'm thinking that this is a little bit suspect right here. Because it was working great when I had the other power supply. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just buy a brand new power supply for this. One that's 80 plus gold rated. I could always use that one that I was using to test this, but I think I want a better power supply anyway. Might even go for one that's modular as opposed to this one with all these cables. I don't really need any of the Molex or any of the SATA power connectors anyway. You can see, look at that, it's forgotten my Wi-Fi network again. So I'm kind of wondering about that, if maybe it's not the power supply, if maybe there's a board level problem, I don't know. But I think I'll probably start with that power supply. Oh no, there it is, it's connected to the Wi-Fi. So yeah, for now, I'm just going to say goodnight to the computer. And we'll revisit it when I replace the power supply. Okay, went ahead, changed cameras, and we're going to continue on with this video. Where I left off, I had mentioned that this power supply has some problems. They were causing the computer to reboot. So, I've purchased a new power supply. I have also removed the large video card and replaced it with a smaller one, which does actually work, or at least it was working. But that will allow me to eliminate this connection here, and, well, the whole rest of this power supply. This is a Gigabyte Ultra Durable Gold 750 watt modular power supply. As mentioned, it has 80 plus gold certification. Pause the video to read that if you like. Here's the efficiency rating. It's kind of amazing just how much more efficient this is at 230 volts. Really, the only reason why they can't call it 90 plus is because once it gets to like maybe about 90% system load, it's less than 90% efficient. But we're not going to get to that point, I don't think, given that this is 750 watts. It should be quite a bit less than that. There, of course, is what it comes with. I don't need any of these extra connectors, I just need these two. So, go ahead and we'll open this. We'll see what we got. Silica gel, power cord, new screws. There, I think, are all the cables. There's a user guide. And there's the power supply itself, which, as mentioned, is fully modular, not semi-modular. It's pretty substantial weight-wise. Kind of have a look inside there. A lot of plastic, so you can't really see much. But I'm going to go ahead and install that in the case. It looks so weird to have a power supply in a computer that's got no cables on it. Because this is the first modular power supply that I've ever used. So it just looks extremely weird to have no cables. I have grabbed the cables that I need, at least I hope these are the ones that I need. They're the ones I'm going to use. So now I just got to get it hooked up. Okay. Got it hooked up, everything that's needed. Also got it plugged in. See if it works. Not sure why it takes so long to start up here. There's the video card ringing in. There comes Windows. Looks like we are working just fine. I'm hopeful. But I am going to let this thing sit and do some burn-in testing. Now that time is wrong. It's still set to Pacific time for some reason. But I'm going to let this do a little bit of burn-in testing with like Prime 95 or something. Just make sure that it's actually stable before I put it into service. But we are definitely getting closer. Okay, right down there is the machine. I'm going to go ahead. Well, that wasn't really what I had in mind. Just knocked out my entire network, but that'll suffice anyway. Won't really matter that much. Pulled that out. Now I'm going to turn this off. This is the old machine. Just gotta make sure that nothing's open that doesn't need to be open. Well, that just closed itself, so that's good. Shut down. Hopefully it turns off. There we go. Now I'm just gonna get it out of there. Now let's call that a pain in the ass would be an understatement. Please work. would be very much appreciated. Yay, video! There's a beep. Pro Series. Ah, there it is. Okay. So, now I'm obviously going to have to log in on this. Okay. That wasn't entirely way too much work for no reason. But I think we're good to go now. So we should be able to plug those back in. Now watch me bump this network thing again and reboot all my routers like a boss, which is probably what's going to happen. Come on. Okay, well it won't click, so whatever. Now let's see what's going on that front. Okay. There it is. Seems like such a waste to use such new hardware for something like this, but it's working. Done the little registry editor trick. Well, funny enough, that decided to die too, so now we're back where we were. There it is. I was saying that it seems like kind of a waste to use a machine like this. For this kind of task, but I guess it is what it is, really, at the end of the day. So, it's there. Hopefully it stays there for a good long while. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them below.